have with us for the first time live here in the studio, Dr. John Youngbauer. I want to tell you a little bit about Dr. Youngbauer. And first of all, we want to welcome you being here. This is a very exciting thing for us. He is a BCBA with a PhD in developmental and child psychology. He has worked with persons of all ages, with and without disabilities, since 1972. Throughout his career, he has provided behavioral ABA training and consultation to public and private schools, daycare, work activity, residential, intermediate care, and independent living programs. So he's done the full gamut. Since 1998, Dr. Youngbauer has supervised behavioral services at the Northern Los Angeles County Regional Center and has provided consultation, training, and technical support for community agencies. Additionally, he served on the DDS task forces for best practice guidelines for behavioral psychology, oral health, and DDS Advisory Committee for Autism Treatment and the Advisory Committee, for the Center for Autism Research and Treatment at UCLA. Dr. Youngbauer also teaches part-time graduate ABA classes at California State University, Northridge. If those aren't a stream of credentials, I don't know what would be. But I have to also say personally, and I've talked on this show, and I'm going to try not to get emotional, but when my child was diagnosed with autism, and I didn't know what we were going to do and how we were going to be able to help him. And what I found out was that ABA was going to help him. And I saw just a little smidge of what that price tag was going to be. And I said, oh my goodness, how on earth are we ever going to get from point A to point B, let alone point Z? And the regional center, I am a client of the Northern Los Angeles County Regional Center. And not to put too fine of a point on it, you saved our lives and you gave me my child back and you footed the bill. This is what you did, and you made it possible for me to be sitting here today and be a sane person and have a conversation with my child, because that would not have happened. And there are many people who are watching who don't have the benefit of a regional center because they're not in the state of California, and look on this and they say, tell us more about this regional center because it's amazing. It's been a huge gift. You've got a tremendous legacy, Dr. Youngbauer, because I know I'm not the only parent who would love to hug you and say thank you.
You'd need really, really big arms because because I certainly didn't do it alone.
Wow.
You know, there were an awful lot of people that set the occasion and made it possible for us to do what we did. And I say we because it was a we all the way along. Had I not the support of George Stevens, our executive director, Joan Daniels, Susanna Gill, I made a mistake. I've now started naming names, and there's just too many.
Like an Academy Award speech.
There's too many names to name, but these folks were all there, and the priorities, the commitments, the values, and the vision that these folks have. When I got to the regional center, that was there, and so I landed on very, very fertile ground, and then, you know, I can't take credit for much beyond that either, because the people I learned from, going back to my upbringing, you know, and I know one of the questions you're probably going to ask is, you know, I
do want to know, because this is personal to you, and I think that people need to understand that, you know, while you are this wonderful, credentialed expert in this field, it's personal to you, and you came into this field partially because it's personal. So if you know, and you don't need to tell us if you don't want to, but if you'd like to tell us what the personal connection is.
Well, the regional center just celebrated its 40th anniversary. Mm-hmm. I am older than the regional center, although hard to believe. I am.
So am I.
When I was growing up here in Southern California, my youngest brother is blind and has autism. And that was fully 20 years before there was a regional center. And for that matter, before Public Law 94-142 mandated public education. So what I saw in my family and what I saw to be normal, a normal family, was a family with someone with special needs, disability. But I saw my parents going to extraordinary efforts, trying to find services for my brother and educational opportunities for him, and they weren't there. Going from, psychiatrist's office to any number of different professionals trying to find services that really weren't there. And even for that matter, my mother being told that really it's her fault because she was distant. Well, my mother could be accused of a few things, but distant was never one of them.
Okay.
And so I saw the difficulty my family had with it. And then when my brother was about 13 and there had been no school, even though they had banded together, we knew every parent within 20 miles that had a disabled kid and networked and so on. And we had kids at our house and parents for a week, and then we go to somebody else's for a week. And a lot of people were doing that across the country. In 1954, for example, the San Fernando Valley Association, I think they've changed their name now. They've changed their name to New Horizons. But they were incorporated in 1954, 20 years before the regional center.
Wow.
And so my brother attended there, but when he got to be 13, he was bigger than my mother, and there was nothing other than the state institution, and that was terrible. When I say terrible, it was terrible for our family, because we were essentially ripping a person out of our family to be, in an institution 65 miles away, and it was a terrible thing for everybody. I'm not saying that the place was terrible or the people there were terrible, but it was just a terrible event for all of us. And that's what set the occasion for the Lanterman Act. Because parents got to a point where, no, we're not going to take our children out of our home. We're not going to go out. They're not going to leave our community. We're going to do what we need to do to have our children go to the public school, participate in all the resources and assets that our community has, and there's no reason that they can't.